forgetfulness of this movement. So that's on page 5. So that's what I think we can manage it without actually fully going through her system. Okay. So long distance scrambling or extraction or whatever you want to call it, for the moment, movement from the lower clause to the matrix clause, as far as I know, was discussed earlier in Gurtu and Mahajan. And since then, it's been in the public domain. So it's not a new fact, but it is a fact that was challenged quite a bit initially. And I think a lot of it depends on intonation. So this example, okay, like 14. कौन तुम सोचते हो कि आएगा? Does that sound okay, better to you? And in fact, you guys had examples like this, right? But it's the intonation, A, that is important, and B, I put it in the initial position. So you should ask if you can also get it, तुम कौन सोचते हो कि आएगा? Is it possible to make the second one work? I think different people have. It's better. Yeah, and so तुमको कौन लगता है कि आएगा, right? Yeah. So I think this probably is her example. But in any case, we will look at Latta also. So there are 2 points that I want to make with respect to scrambling versus extraction. The first point is that long distance scrambling, with extraction, you go to the scope position, right? That's where you interpret it. Direct question interpretation. With long distance scrambling, and this comes from Saito, it is possible to reconstruct and interpret it as an indirect question. So just like, scrambling doesn't change when you have, it changes sort of information structure type of discourse sensitive things. But a declarative is a declarative, a question is a question regardless of how you do the scrambling. So with this, so this is a context where I think you get, and again, this is also in the literature. I think I had it in my 96 paper to defend that it is possible to get the facts that Gurtu and Mahajan had. That if you say, Anu kya kar rahi hai? You can say, Kaun Anu soch rahi hai ki aayega? Yep. Yeah. So this one, you don't want lagta hai because you won't get it with lagta hai. This one you need this activity predicate because you're asking, why is she preoccupied? Why isn't she sitting with us? You can create the context and you can say, well, उसका भी time नहीं है. वो तो कौन किसको बुलाना है वो सोच रही है. Something like that. या किसको वो सोचे कि बुलाएं. So if you create the right context, you will not get a question reading. You will get a reading where that's what she's doing, wondering who she should invite. So to the extent that you can get it, you're more likely looking at scrambling than extraction. Because extraction is driven by, let's say, this IQ feature versus UQ feature scope. I need to move in order to get scope. That's where I'll get scope. Okay? Just thinking. Okay. So that's, yeah. It can have the indirect question reading. You're not getting it.
I would instinctively think of it as a matrix.
Yeah, matrix question. So matrix question is of course possible. To the extent that you can create a context in which it doesn't have a matrix question reading, even though it's been moved, then you're dealing with scrambling rather than extraction.
So how would we then differentiate between this being the declarative and that question? What would be that if this is
So,
the same position, if it's both the indirect reading?
Okay, so let me give you a sort of simple-minded answer. If I do scrambling and I say, Kisko tumne dekha? I've scrambled for whatever reason, whatever discourse. Yeah, no, let me actually give an example. Apne bachchon ko kisne mara? Is that good? Yeah, right? You can reconstruct. So in a way, scrambling always allows, let's say, if you can reconstruct and then interpret. So that is sort of the idea here, that although scrambling can, wherever you move it, after that it needs to be in either interpreted there or possibly down there. Again, I'm not really giving you a full explanation. I'm using it at the level of a diagnostic. So it's not really a theory of long distance scrambling. I'm just saying this is one possible difference. Um, in English, if you extract, then it's a direct question. It's not likely to be, I don't think you can make it into an indirect question. So this is the diagnostic. So that's one of them. The second second argument against treating it as movement to pre-verbal position is the following, and there's a bunch of sentences there. In every case, so when it comes to simple clauses, the pre-verbal position is favored, right? That's what we saw generally. That seems to be the view, although it is possible to get it in other positions. I want to argue that when you do movement out of the embedded clause into the matrix clause, in Hindi at least, in Hindi Urdu, there's a preference for the initial position rather than the pre-verbal position. So preference, not saying that this yeah. So in embedded clause, it's a different preference than when you do extraction. So 16 through 21, yeah, I think all of them make this point. And I'm just going to go through it, and you can respond if you think it's really not the case. Again, maybe someone finds something acceptable that's given as a question mark, but the relative judgment. So कौन अनु ने उमा को बताया कि यहाँ रहता है. Maybe let me put a pause. कौन अनु ने उमा को बताया कि यहाँ रहता है. Better, right? Like with the pause. अनु ने उमा को कौन बताया कि यहाँ रहता है. I think there's a sharp contrast, right? So all I'm doing is using a ditransitive instead of a transitive verb. अनु ने कौन उमा को बताया कि यहाँ रहता है. अनु ने I don't know, like, you should try to read it give it the best shot, and my feeling is that 6A is going to be better than 6B, 16A is going to be better than 16B and 16C. As it moves to the left. True, so when you have just a transitive verb, the second position happens to be the pre-verbal position. That's why I used it, that transitive verb, because then you get a further distinction. And Ankana, I think I shared that view that movement to the left helps. So again, keep it at the level of diagnostic at least. Yeah.
Means both the three sentences are very ungrammatical to me, like in that sense. But when you do it with a pause, 16A, so that seems more acceptable. But couldn't that be explained by the processing kind of explanation, that it gives more time to process that con for further scope?
I'm okay with that. I'm only arguing against movement to pre-verbal position. That's my. If it's actually what I'm arguing against is this. There are three different WH scope strategies that Manetta's paper discusses. It would be great if we had a unified analysis, but actually the facts themselves pull in, so they are not the same phenomenon, is my point. And it could be for processing reasons, for all we know. That something in the beginning you can put a pause and kind of demarcate it and then pick it up at some point. But then that's adding to the view that it's not movement to the pre-verbal position if it's got to be clause initial, right? So, yeah. So you're supporting this fact that I'm reporting, that the comma helps. But 17A, B, C again, कौन सीता ने कहा कि उमा को पसंद है. So this is from the object, and this system should work also for dative subjects or whatever. So कौन सीता ने कहा कि उमा को पसंद है, you can make it okay, I suppose, but सीता ने कौन कहा कि उमा को पसंद है, I think it's the same fact I'm saying again. सीता ने sorry, किसने सीता ने सोचा कि रवि को देखा. So now you have two nays. किसने सीता ने सोचा कि रवि को देखा. I think that is relatively good with this kind of intonation, but सीता ने किसने सोचा कि no sorry सीता ने किसने सोचा कि रवि को देखा. I don't think you can make it okay. So again, pushing to this pre-verbal position that in each case, and then the last one, कौन सीता सोचती है कि यहाँ रहता है versus सीता कौन, this was the original one, right? सीता कौन सोचती है कि यहाँ रहता है, whatever. So I'm making the same point again. 2021, किसको अनु को लगता है कि रवि पसंद करता है, relatively better than अनु को किसको लगता है कि रवि पसंद करता है, may not be quite so bad. किसको तुम्हें लगता है कि रवि पसंद करता है, तुम्हें किसको लगता है कि रवि पसंद करता है. These are less problematic, I think, but no one will have the opposite judgment. That is my point. Just like in the basic cases, even people like me who hadn't been tuned into this pre-verbal thing, hadn't been paying attention, even I would not argue against that being a better order. So this is pushing in a different directions. That's my point. So you can't have the same analysis when the phenomena itself may be different. And so I'm inclined to treat it as long distance scrambling, of course, assuming that, you know, there is a clear theory of what the properties of long distance scrambling are. And actually there was a lot of work done in the 90s and maybe even now. I haven't followed up on that literature. Okay. Then the second part, so that was the second part of Manetta's paper that I was arguing against. And the third is scope marking. And so she says scope marking is the same as what she called extraction, what we are calling this scrambling. Of course, scope marking shows a preference for pre-verbal position, right? Anu kya sochti hai, anu kya janti hai. On the view that it is really two clauses, of course, that's what we expect in simple clauses, right? That the what will be in pre-verbal position. But I didn't make that argument here. But I think, so she takes a direct dependency view, right? It's like the WH moves, here's an expletive. So the general idea is really not, it's simply, it's another version of Riemsdyck's original, that the WH that's upstairs, that, okay, no, wait. There were two parts to it. One is, it needs accusative case. So in Van Riemsdyck's account, it was generated in spec. So on that she differs. In Hindi, it is in direct object position and it has case. It's in a case position. So she factors that in. But ultimately, she wants it to have the same chain. There's a WH in the lower clause that hooks up, provides the content for the question in the upstairs clause. And in that discussion, she actually takes on this scope freezing, which I said I wouldn't do, but now I will present it. And she gave so some of the facts she has on scope marking actually have been addressed in the literature, and so there's just a difference in how she views it and how the literature, well, basically the people who've worked on indirect dependency have looked at it. But the one fact that she has a new take on is this, the fact is not, she agrees with the fact, okay? So what is it? When you say, how many books did Bill say John read? This is something that Tony Kroc, I mentioned the other day in his paper, had brought out. And the idea is this, that you have two readings. So this is on the top of page 7. It has a referential reading. And you can translate that as, what is the size of the set of books that Bill said John read. So what Bill said was the books that he read and the amount reading. What is the number such that Bill said John read that many books? So in Bill's saying, the number is part of what Bill said. In the other one, the number piece is not part of what Bill said. It's just the set, okay? And this ambiguity shows up in something like 22A. How many books did Bill say John read? So you can think of someone who doesn't have control over numbers as saying, read me this and this and this and this, and then you can say, so how many books did Bill say you should read? And you can add it up and say X many. But the kid who asked you to read 10 books didn't say read me 10 books. Okay, so that's roughly the difference. And the point is, you don't get this ambiguity when you have what did Bill say. What did Bill say? How many books did John read? Then Bill has to have given the number, right? And Lahiri said this follows from indirect dependency, because what are you doing in indirect dependency? You're saying which proposition in the set denoted by question 2 is such that Bill said that proposition. And what's in question 2? It's John read 1, John read 2, John read 3, right? So the number is part of it. What she says is, well, this is something that that is not about direct indirect dependency. You can have direct dependency, but you get it if you have a certain configuration, i.e. you have a queue, the queue position is upstairs, and you have WH and C2 downstairs, or something similar to WH and C2, right? So, and then you need a system of interpreting that long distance. And this system is, she refers to the choice functional analysis. And let me have a show of hands. How many of you are aware of the choice function analysis of questions? Okay, I don't see too many hands going up. We will discuss this before the course ends. But just take it on faith that there is a way of interpreting a WH that is syntactically in a lower clause from a high scope mark, something that the Q morpheme that is high up, okay? So it's not that the system that I have presented to you involves actual movement. And she says, once you look at the choice functional analysis, which allows something that is high up at a distance from the content, but linked up in through co-indexation, chains, whatever, then you will get this scope freezing effect because the WH is there. Well, this turns out not to be the case, because luckily we can look at a language that has a Q morpheme, an actual Q morpheme upstairs, such as Japanese, and a WH actually downstairs. Okay, so John, so this is the finite clause comes after that. So this is John thinks car. That's the main clause. The Q morpheme car is upstairs, and what is in the direct object position is Bill, how many books read? So exactly the configuration that we would give to the Hindi sentence or the 22B under a direct dependency analysis of this type. And the same for B. Ken thinks, no is another Q morpheme. So what does Ken, the equivalent of what does Ken think, and then you have, except it's not what, it's a Q morpheme actually. And Dr. Saito saw how many patients. So the difference between the Q morpheme in Japanese is that it has no content. It doesn't take up the thematic spot of the direct argument, direct object. It's simply a Q morpheme, doesn't matter what. There's no anti-locality. But what can give a choice functional analysis? It can bind at a distance. The point here is that binding at a distance does not stop these examples from being ambiguous in the same way that the English example is ambiguous. So it does not have the scope freezing that we say choice functional analysis, that Amaneta says choice functional analysis should have. So I'm going to end this now and leave it in your court. You don't have to think too deeply about how many. If you don't, stick with the scope marking data that you had earlier for your to refine your analysis. If later you want to look at scope marking further, this is an important argument that you want to, look at scope freezing. You want to look at echo questions, many other things that I've kind of alluded to but not discussed in great detail. For your presentations, I would say focus on, if you're going to talk about extraction versus scrambling, you can use this as a diagnostic to decide. Okay? We still have about half an hour before lunch, so you can either, why don't you work a bit? I'll take a break. After lunch, I'll meet with the groups. Does that sound okay? Okay. I didn't ask if you had any questions. Are there any questions about this? Yeah.
Putting the WH in base position in the
Which one?
say 16 or
Six.
the other ones where it moves
Uh-huh.
all the way up. Is that really bad in between? I don't know.
Which one? 16?
16 or any of the other ones.
16 to 21.
Yeah.
Okay. So how good is the data in 16 to 21?
When we don't use the WH clause.
You leave it in the base position, like in the embedded clause. No, that's perfectly good. It just doesn't have a wide scope reading. So if you, the question is, suppose you had in 16A, Anu ne Uma ko bataya ki kaun yahan rehta hai, right? It's a simple declarative with an indirect question reading. Similarly, for Sita ne kaha ki Uma ko kaun pasand hai. That sounds a little odd, but if it has any meaning, it means who does she like. That is what Sita told.
When you replace the word kaha with bataya.
Yeah, it becomes better. Yeah, kahna. Even in English, sometimes I find it hard to have an indirect question reading with say, but bataya becomes perfectly okay. So, yeah. So it's not the problem with the embedded clause, but the matrix verb, I think, for indirect question reading, that is preferable. And the 18 would be Sita ne socha ki kisne Ravi ko dekha. That's fine. Maybe you have a preference for pre-verbal, but all of them are fine on an indirect question reading. Which is why to Ankana's earlier question when I was saying in a scrambling case you could put it back down, then you get the indirect question reading. So it's sort of saying if you reconstruct, you will get whatever you had earlier, which in Hindi means an indirect question reading. Any other questions? Yes.
In 2 and 3 on the first.
Thoda
In 2 and 3.
Yeah.
So we said that 2A sounds better than 2B and 3B sounds better than 3A. So has it got something to do with the case markers?
I think that's a little bit the question that Ringu was asking. Is core.
Yeah, that would also lead to, that's what I would have asked for 21 and 21A and 21B.
Wait, hold on to 21A. I want to just make sure one thing. तुमने पैसा किससे लिया versus तुमने किससे पैसा लिया? Does that change anything? So I'm trying to get away from co, right? Kisse is, people say co-accusative, brings indefiniteness, whatever. Say is the closest analog, right? Kisse diya we can't say, but kisse liya is how we would. Is there a difference in naturalness? 3B is still better than 3C. Then, sorry, 3A. So that tells you that you can't blame co per se. But like I said, yes, Sir Ali.
If we put something like more before paisa,
Mm-hmm.
So if we say तुमने परसों लिया हुआ पैसा किसको दिया and तुमने किसको परसों लिया हुआ पैसा दिया, then the pre-verbal
Is
sounds
that
more big.
okay? So there may be, like I said, scrambling is, or this preference for pre-verbal position, I'm accepting as a preference for sure, and I think nobody is saying it's a hard fact because it isn't. But it could be affected by many things. The heaviness of, that's what you're trying to make, right? So,
Heaviness or maybe even definiteness.
yeah.
Always put the demonstrative before paisa.
वो पैसा किसको दिया? So that goes back to Kanupriya's focus on co. Is that adding the definition? I'm open to any such possibility because I really don't know what's going on. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. So it, that was the votive alternative, right? किसको अच्छा लगता है, किसे अच्छा लगता है, kind of. So there are many factors here which. So here's the thing: if you really want to see to what extent this pre-verbal position is the WH, is the position for WH, these are exactly the kinds of questions you have to ask in the simple case. Not straightforward. So we want to manipulate the case marker, we want to manipulate the direct object, either like even person दिया हुआ पैसा kind of gives a specific, right? Because there's, what does person दिया हुआ पैसा mean? There's some amount of money that you gave person. So, scrambling is very much sensitive to these sorts of discourse factors. But maybe I don't know the studies that have been done, but it would be worth seeing to what extent it affects WH positioning. And when it correlates with the same effects when it's not a WH, right? Suppose you have the same kinds of discourse factors and you notice, oh, once we manipulate it this way, then you always end up in pre-verbal position. Then is it about WH or is it about, and to be fair, people who are saying this are saying it's focus movement. So it's possible that whatever it is that is forcing movement to that position is a more general feature of certain types of elements sensitive to discourse, like definiteness or whatever. And then you want to ask yourself, then, do we really want to use the tools we use for WH movement, which has to do with scope, right? Do we want to use that, or we want to use a different way of looking at it? Okay, Praveen, what was your point about 21?
It's roughly the same.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at 21, 20 and 21.
Mm-hmm.
So, although you said that the A's are better than the B's there, but
Mm-hmm.
21, I think it has to do with Anu Ko and Tumhe.
Mm-hmm.
21B seems to me at least,
Mm-hmm.
better than 21A. And one of the reasons that I think is the word tumhe, which is, it's the pronoun, the pronoun, whereas the ko for me seems like an alien thing which somehow is blocking something out there. Tumhe for me is monomorphemic,
Yeah.
analyzable, but anu ko is something I can separate anu and ko. Maybe something is happening there. So 21B seems better.
That 21A?
Yeah. That's
No.
okay. We can differ on that.
No, I mentioned the fact that for everybody, no, he's saying 21B is better than 21A. I thought that for everybody, clause initial is better than, actually these two data points are from Rajesh, but be that as it may. You're saying that in fact 21B is better.
And the noun,
Yeah.
and then the separate or
Yeah. So that would be one example where you're saying clausal initial is not better. Okay. In general, the clausal initial position seems to be better. If not, then there may be an argument to be made, okay, for the alternative position. Question?
It's a blunder question.
Okay.
Yeah, can you look at it as a requirement of PF, like phonological requirement? Like
Mm-hmm.
I have read some the thing that comes immediately before the verb also get a part of the stress.
So I don't know how to connect this up. This is as much as I, you know. Um, okay. So why is it not helping us with 18AB, on which I think there's more agreement? So see, 20 and 21, if I try to remember why Rajesh um, gave these examples. See, we had kisne Sita ne in 18, right? So it's the same adjective marker, ne, and clearly there you want the WH before the subject, matrix subject. Then you have nominative, right? Kwan and Sita, and that too is the same. You prefer the WH first. In 20, we were trying, I think that is supposed to be dative subject, right? Anu ko lagta hai, and Ravi kisko pasand karta hai, accusative. And
there also it's false.
It seems to go to, it follows this generalization. And then instead of, since dative has another option, which is tumko and tumhe, that breaks up this OCP type of situation, and that improves it a little bit. But I thought that it's still 21A is preferable to 21B, but Praveen is saying maybe not. And
it might be possible because लगता है, like the most natural subject for लगता है would be dative mark one. So
But let's
किसको
change
लगता
that
है
to
कि
me.
किसको लगता है कि रवि पसंद करता है, रवि शाम को पसंद करता है, that kind of, for that reason it could be possible. तुम्हें किसको लगता है?
They're both dative, right?
Yeah, but
Okay.
overtly marked.
They're both overtly marked, no? Tumhe
He's saying that even if you drop the tumhe there,
Yes.
even in a sentence, so you say
किसको लगता है कि
लगता है कि रवि
पसंद करता है.
whatever, yeah. So okay, change the tumhe to tumko. Then
And किसको तुमको लगता है कि रवि पसंद. Okay, we are certainly drifting away from the level of expertise that I have on this topic, okay? And what we can hope to accomplish in the next 15 minutes. There could be any number of factors in this case, right? And I have no idea whether it is what happens if you drop. So I think the idea is if you can, Hindi allows pro drop. If you do pro drop, now you have a kisko that could either go with the upstairs or the downstairs. But you can't do pro drop in the downstairs, right? So the kisko gets interpreted, has to get into. So there's something like that. Which one are you going to see as pro drop? If you just have one dative marked element, will you put it in the direct object in the, oh yeah, you would, actually Hindi allows object drop too. So, be my guest. Okay? Yes.
Ma'am, if we do long distance scrambling
Mm-hmm.
and making the room for the WH word in the syntax of the matrix clause,
Mm-hmm.
can we change the syntax of the matrix clause?
To what?
Like सीता सोचती है कि कौन आएगा.
Uh-huh.
We are doing long distance scrambling.
Mm-hmm.
सीता को कौन लगता है कि आएगा.
Okay.
Can we change it?
If so, no. Normally, no. You can start with Sita ko lagta hai, and your direct object is the finite clause, right? Ki some CP. So, normally when we talk about whether we do extraction or we do scrambling, we don't change whatever we have in the structure, right? We are allowed movement, or we are allowed, feature checking or whatever, whichever way. But you don't change the. If you want to derive that, then you would start with a dative subject construction and say, here's the position for WH movement, and that's where this is going. What we are arguing about is that position to which you're moving scrambled position, in which case I think I might not have said it explicitly. Scrambling what I think I had in mind was this: long distance scrambling favors the clause initial position, WH movement favors the pre-verbal position. We see that in action in, in simple clauses, movement to the pre-verbal position. We don't see that in action in the long distance cases. That was my general point. Okay, that's it. But this is a halfway point. Therefore, it is possible to say that. That is sort of the spoken this is English word style. So, starting off position. This is I. This is accepting. It's okay. You will explain. What we are noticing is that it is pronounced. Marlo, you go with this beyond this point, right? Suppose clause initial so it's one and two. So two choices. Go with Marlo. It is not
माणूस आहे कोणता माणूस वापरला जाऊ कोणता माणूस बोलू शकतो का म्हणजे ते म्हणण्याचं काय इंटरेस्ट नाही होता कोणता प्रश्न त्याच्यासाठी पोळी कशी बनली हा पण कसं तेच म्हणल्यावर त्याचा रॉ मला सांगता नाही येत पण मला काय म्हणायचं
So it can
we find it, then we get so we had to suppose you take this strap in order to whatever and then you would get the
म्हणजे कोणता कोणता माणूस आत गेला कुठला माणूस आत गेला आपण म्हणू शकतो पण मग ते म्हणल्यावर आधी बरोबर हे बघायचं पण आपण ते निवडून बघू शकतो
सेट ओनली जानते हैं, इसमें एक बार वैसा होता है हम सेट तो जानते हैं, लेकिन एक लार्जर इसमें क्या है कि इसमें अगर चार सेट करें तो चार ही मोटा मोटा ये सेट है तो इसके अंदर जैसे नाइजीरियन एलिगेंस तक नाइजीरियन होगा कम से कम 1 लाख 2 करोड़ 2 अरब पे जाके इसमें जब इसका मतलब है कि वैसे कोई 20-25 की पर्सनली जानता है तो ये
आपण तसं काही बघतच नाही तुझ्याकडे 4 स्वेटर आहेत एक लाल आहे एक कसला स्वेटर आहे कसला नाही काढून टाकावं का म्हणजे इट ओव्हरलॅप्स विथ कारण जिकडे विच आपण त्याच्यासाठी वापरतो कंटेंट रॉ मटेरियल साठी तिकडे आपण कसलं मी तेच
That's what I'm saying.
मग कसली मॅच
Not the DPI. I think the direct object is पूरा DPI.
मुझे पता है
कसला विच ऑफ द
That is old one. Never say it does work the same. वहाँ से two close. You take इस जगह पे ना light is not
त्याला खूप टाइप्स असणं गरजेचं आहे
क्या बात क्या
मैं तेरे को कॉल करता रहूँगा और जब तेरे को नहीं मिलेगा कल मैं
which of the type of
इधर आने का थोड़ा एक्स्ट्रा बेनिफिट मिल सकता है
And German is like SOV,
आहे
please say SVO if it is a
कोण येणार आहे
per analysis and per analysis. The syntax is first. अगर ये यहाँ पे है, then it will first expose and then that DP
पण काल कोण माझ्यासाठी होते सर कोण चांगले आले होते
मैम जो हम लोग कॉल को बुक क्या ड्रॉप करेंगे
पण याच्यामध्ये आपल्याला
क्या क्या
सेट ऑफ पाहुणे माहिती आहे
अगर बोले कि
कोण
कौन
ते कोण पाहुणे येणार आहे
No, they're coming from two
ते
different
पाहुणे
structures.
त्याच्यामध्ये असं
Don't just because they have the
ते
same
पाहुणे
name.
ते पाहुणे ते
No,
पाहुणे
but that Sita
रॅन्डम पाहुणे
कारण काही
नाही
it's very much possible की तुला माहितीच नाहीये. But then again तुमच्या कोण येणार आहे
कोण येणार आहे हे डिलिंग नाहीये ते फिक्स आहे पण कोण बरोबर आहे डिलिंग नाही सिमिलर कॉन्टेंट साठी नुसतं कोण असेल तर ते नुसतं क्लिअरली डिलिंग नाहीये
So this इसने और the children see this was here. Then Sita ने सोचा कि इसने कभी को देखा इधर से सब डाउट किया अभी जाते हैं अभी जब आते हैं
No, so Sita सोच रही थी. So that is fine. It doesn't. But you, Sita सोच रही थी.
तुझे दादा पाहुणा नाहीये
That is not available. But ये समझ असा कॉन्टेक्स्ट. This is also what we
तुझ्या घरचं सगळं खूप काहीतरी तयारी ठीक आहे फॉर एक्झाम्पल तुझ्या दादाचंच केळवण आहे आता तुझ्या दादाचं घरचाच आहे पण घरी पाहुणे करतात त्यामुळे तुला असं वाटलं की कोणीतरी पाहुणे मग तरी घरचा तरी पण तू originates here कोणीतरी
It goes here. अगर यही छोड़ देते तो this is think wants minus WH, but this is plus WH. So that's the problem. That
कोण येणार आहे
and now
कोणाच्या कोणाच्या ओळखीचं कोणतरी येणार कोण येणार
won't bind.
लॉजिक लावायचं
This will get bound down.
अगं तुझ्या दादाचं केळवण तुझ्याच घरी कुठे
So
होतं
that is why now think and even though it started out with 2, but once it's moved out, then that is just like a minus 1.
पण कॉन्टेक्स्ट देऊ शकतो असं म्हणतो ना कॉन्टेक्स्ट दिलेच आहे का
That doesn't matter. Trace it interpreted as X.
त्यासाठी मला पण वाटतं की कॉन्टेक्स्ट नाही दिसत आपल्याला
It exists in X.
मी माणूस गेला
एक बज गया क्या
तुला दादा
And
सुबह मुझे खाने के लिए बनाने की जरूरत नहीं है खुद ही पक रहा हूँ Hey, Julie,
ये part
did you get the money?
question. Yeah.
How will I get them?
That is what forces this in English. Also.
तू हे कन्सिडर माणूस आहे
मैं
पण आता समज सृष्टी मांजरीचा आवाज काढते एकदम डिक्टो तर आता तिने आवाज काढला असेल. कोण आलाय